What's going on? My name is David Whitney with David Whitney Training and Nutrition, and I'm a certified nutritionist, and today we're going to be talking about why bread is not bad for you. The reason I'm making this video is because lately I have so many people coming up to me just taking it for granted that bread is something that's bad. Whether they're saying, oh, I'm telling my husband, wife, father, mother, whatever, they need to cut out bread if they want to lose weight, or they're telling me, I know I need to cut out bread, or yada, yada, yada. Everyone knows bread is bad, but I don't know where you guys are getting this from, and that's why I want to cover this today. We're going to talk about different foods and why it's not about what food you eat, but how much you eat, and really how many calories you eat. But before we get into this, let's use an old riddle as an analogy. I'm sure a lot of you guys heard this one, and it goes something like, what weighs more, a pound of gold or a pound of feathers? Now, if you haven't heard this riddle before, your mind might be thinking, whoa, a pound of gold, I could visualize that. That's something dense and heavy. A pound of feathers, I could visualize that. That's something light and airy. But the problem is, we already got the answer inside the question. We're not asking what the consistency is of each one. We're asking how much we have of each one. And we measure how much by a unit called pounds. It's how much they weigh, weighed in pounds. And we already gave you the answer how much we have. We have 1 pound of gold and 1 pound of feathers. So they both weigh the same. Now, let me give you a new riddle, one I just came up with here, to help us along. What will cause us to gain more weight? 100 calories of cake or 100 calories of celery? Now, just like with the first riddle, our minds start thinking. We visualize that cake. We know cake is bad. Or it's junk food. It's not good for us. It's dense and it's filled with chocolate. The celery is light and airy and it's healthy. The problem is, just like with the first riddle, it's about the unit of measurement we're using to tell us how much we have of each. With the gold, we had 1 pound. With the feathers, we had 1 pound. Now, we measure food in units of energy. That tells us how much they'll cause us to gain. We have 100 calories of cake. We have 100 calories of celery. They will both cause us to gain the exact same amount of weight. Why is that? Because our bodies use energy for anything they do. Even when you're sleeping and you're laying in bed, your body is still using energy for your bodily processes, or just pumping blood through your system and whatever else your body is doing. When you get up out of bed in the morning, your body is using more energy to get up and go. Now, like a car uses gasoline to go, and that's the energy source for the car. Our body has 2 energy sources. One is the food we consume, and the other is our own body's tissue. Now, we measure these energy sources in units called calories. Now, let me explain something to you. If you have 3 people all going on a diet, person A burns 2,500 calories a day, and they're eating 2,000 calories of ice cream. Person B burns 2,500 calories a day, and they're eating 2,000 calories of bread. Person C burns 2,500 calories a day, and they're eating 2,000 calories of chicken breast and celery. Which person is going to gain more weight? Which person is going to lose more weight? Listen, just like the riddle, the answer is in the question. Our bodies burn energy. The calories determine how much energy is in each food. So, let's put it in another way. Person A is eating 2,000 units of energy, but their body burns 2,500 units of energy. Person B is eating 2,000 units of energy, but their body burns 2,500 units of energy. Person C is eating 2,000 units of energy, but their body is burning 2,500 units of energy. How many units of energy will each person burn a day? Now I think we could all say in unison, 500 units of energy. The units of what we use to measure energy is calories. So whether you're eating junk food or you're eating health food or you're eating bread, it doesn't matter. It's all about how many calories your body is consuming, because that will tell you how many calories your bodies will burn. See, it all comes down to being in what's called a calorie deficit. To make this more understandable, you're probably familiar with what's called the national debt. Our government spends more money a year than it takes in for taxes. So we are running a deficit. It's just like your own household. you understand that if you spend more money than you take in from your job, you will be in a deficit, a financial deficit, and eventually, if you don't stop that, you will go broke. Now, with money, this is a bad thing. But with losing weight and with calories, being in a deficit is a good thing, because when we go into a deficit and we don't have enough food for the energy that our body burns, then we go into a deficit and our body starts tapping into fat, and it burns the fat tissue and uses that for energy. So you see, it's not about the type of food you eat. It's about how much calories you eat. That's why the only diet system out there that I've ever seen that was actually good, whether it was Atkins diet, keto diet, paleo diet, carnivore diet, slim fast, whatever they have, anything. All those only work because they take away food and they cause you to be in an energy deficit. But there's one out there that explains it perfectly, and that's the Weight Watchers model, because Weight Watchers operates on a point system, but all food already operates on a point system. It's called calories. So all they're doing is taking the calories that are in each food, and they're just changing the calories over to points. And they're telling you can eat whatever food you want. You just got to manage it with your points. And that's exactly how it works. But now I'm not saying that it doesn't matter at all about our food choices, because actually it does. Because certain foods are going to be harder for us to be in a calorie deficit while we're eating. That's because certain foods are hyperpalatable and certain foods are calorically dense. Now, what does that mean? Well, first of all, hyperpalatable means certain foods like sweet and salty foods will send off reward signals in our brains. That means that when we're eating them, we receive these signals that tell us to keep eating. It's a reward when we eat them, and we want to keep going even after we're full. For an example, let's say you have a plate with a dry, plain chicken breast on it. It's going to be very hard to overeat with that chicken breast. Once you're full, you're just going to stop eating. You don't want anymore because it's not something that you're enjoying. But now, let's say you take some sweet chili sauce and you pour it on top. Now that sweet chili sauce, every time you bite into it, it's sending off reward signals in your brain. So now it's easy to keep eating after you're already full because you're feeling a reward signal going off in your brain that's telling your body to keep eating, even though you're already full. It's like with potato chips. They have that saying with the Lay's potato chips, the motto used to be, you can't eat just one. It's because that salty food sends off the same reward signal. Even though you might not be hungry, you can always have room for dessert, right? Okay, now, what about the foods, the other type of foods I mentioned, calorically dense? Well, sometimes they go hand in hand. What is a calorically dense food? A lot of the time, it's a food that's high in fat. Why is that? Because fat actually has more calories than its macronutrient counterparts, protein and carbs. If you take 1 gram of carbs, 1 gram of protein, and 1 gram of fat, the 1 gram of carbs has 4 calories, the 1 gram of protein has 4 calories, but the 1 gram of fat has more than double that, 9 calories. So let's try to visualize that. If you have a slice of bread on your plate, that's about 80 calories. If you take 1 serving of butter and you put that on the plate, now you know what a serving of butter looks like, right? Very small. That's 110 calories. Because like we explained, fat has more than twice the calories than its macronutrient counterparts, protein and carbs. So you see, it's not the carbs we need to worry about. It's not the bread we need to worry about. It's the fat. Think about it. If you take a big bowl of vegetables, vegetables are very filling and they're very low on calories. They're nutrient dense. They're high in fiber. You have a big bowl and you might have only 80 calories. But a bowl of vegetables doesn't taste that good. So what do? We steam them and we put butter on them. But like I said, just 1 serving of butter is 110 calories. So now you have this big bowl of vegetables, but if you put the butter on it, you more than double the calories. Now, I'm not saying that we have to avoid butter and we have to avoid fats. I'm just saying this is something we have to be cautious of when we're on a diet. I'm not saying we have to avoid the foods that send off the reward signals, the hyperpalatable foods. I'm just saying these are things we need to be conscious of and cautious of. We need to manage how much we eat. Just like I mentioned earlier with the Weight Watchers model, you can have those other foods if you make room for them. If you're conscious of how many calories you're having, if you're tracking calories, you can have these foods. But if you're not tracking calories, these are foods you're going to need to avoid because these are foods that are very easy to overeat on. All right, well, I hope this video has been informative. I hope it's been able to break some of these myths for you because I'm just so tired of people coming up to me talking about bread is so bad. Bread is not the culprit. Carbs contain 4 calories, protein contains 4 calories, fat contains 9. If anything, if there's a macronutrient you were worried about, it should be fat. But like I explained, we can fit all foods into our diet as long as we make room for them. Now, before we finish, there's a couple of real world examples I just want to give you of what I'm talking about put into action. There was a physics professor who was trying to explain this to his students. He had his students who were stuck in this dogmatic way of thinking of good food, bad food, certain foods you have to avoid. And this man, as a physics professor, understood the first law of thermodynamics, that energy could neither be created nor destroyed. It's the same thing with food. Food is energy that our body uses. It can neither be created nor destroyed. It doesn't matter whether we're getting these units of energy from what's called health food or these units of energy from what's called junk food. So what this professor did is created something called the Twinkie diet, where he went on a diet and all he ate was Twinkies and junk food. At the end of the diet, he ended up losing weight and getting healthier. How could that be? Because he made sure he was in an energy deficit, also known as a calorie deficit. He made sure he was eating less calories than his body burned for energy. And even though he was only eating Twinkies and junk food, he lost weight and got healthier. There's another person who's done this, and he did something called the ice cream diet, and he documented the entire 90 days on his YouTube channel. You can search that and look for that right here. This man ate nothing but 2,000 calories of ice cream, beer, and protein powder a day. What a horrible diet, right? There's no way this guy could lose weight. Wrong, because his body was burning more than 2,000 calories a day. He figured that his body was burning 2,500 calories a day, so he only consumed 2,000 calories a day. And even though all he was eating was ice cream, beer, and protein powder, at the end of the 90 days, not only did he lose weight, but all his blood markers improved when he checked his blood work. Now, there's a third example of this. There's a man who did something which he called the 7-Eleven diet. Now, we all know we're supposed to eat fresh, healthy food, the opposite of the type of stuff we'll find at 7-Eleven, right? Well, this man also was in an energy or caloric deficit. He ate nothing but 7-Eleven food, and like the other two men, he lost weight and got healthier. So, I hope this has been informative, and I hope it's been able to break through this dogmatic way of thinking of good foods, bad foods, bread, bad. No, bread is not bad for you. It's all about the calories, and bread isn't even calorically dense. Having a sandwich is not going to cause you to be fat. I hope this has been informative. If you have any comments, leave them below.